The Keith Lamont Scott shooting in 2016 took place in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a story that needs to be told. The incident occurred on September 20th, 2016, and it quickly became a focal point for discussions about police violence and racial injustice in the United States. Keith Lamont Scott, a 43-year-old African-American man, was shot and killed by police officers in the parking lot of his apartment complex. The officers were there to serve a warrant on another individual, but the situation escalated when they encountered Scott. According to the police, Scott was armed and posed an imminent threat, which led to the use of deadly force. However, Scott's family and several eyewitnesses disputed this account, claiming that he was unarmed and simply waiting for his son to come home from school. The conflicting narratives sparked outrage and led to days of protests and civil unrest in Charlotte. The shooting was captured on video by both police body cameras and by Scott's wife, Rakaya Scott, who recorded the incident on her cell phone. The footage, which was later released to the public, showed a chaotic scene with officers shouting commands and Scott slowly backing away from his vehicle. The videos did not clearly show whether Scott was holding a weapon, adding to the controversy and public outcry. In the days following the shooting, Charlotte became a battleground for activists, community leaders, and law enforcement. Protests erupted across the city, with demonstrators demanding justice for Scott and calling for an end to police brutality. Some of the protests turned violent, resulting in property damage, injuries, and a citywide curfew being imposed. The case drew national attention and reignited the debate over the use of force by police officers, particularly in communities of color. It also highlighted the broader issues of systemic racism and the need for police reform. The shooting of Keith Lamont Scott was not an isolated incident but part of a larger pattern of similar cases that have occurred across the country. In the aftermath, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department conducted an internal investigation, and the officer who shot Scott, Brentley Vinson, was placed on administrative leave. The investigation concluded that Vinson's actions were justified, and he was not charged with any wrongdoing. This decision further fueled the anger and frustration of those who believed that justice had not been served. The Keith Lamont Scott shooting remains a poignant example of the deep-seated issues that continue to plague the United States. It serves as a reminder of the urgent need for meaningful change and the importance of holding those in power accountable. As we delve deeper into this story, we will explore the events leading up to the shooting, the aftermath, and the ongoing fight for justice and equality. This is not just a story about one man. It is a story about a community, a city, and a nation grappling with complex and deeply rooted issues. It is a story that needs to be told not just to remember Keith Lamont Scott, but to understand the broader context and to work towards a future where such tragedies are no longer a part of our reality. The incident that unfolded on September 20th, 2016, was nothing short of extraordinary. Keith Lamont Scott was fatally shot by police officers in the parking lot of an apartment complex in Charlotte, North Carolina. Officers were there to serve a warrant on another individual when they noticed Scott sitting in his vehicle. According to police, Scott exited his vehicle with a firearm, leading officers to open fire. However, Scott's family contends that he was unarmed and was holding a book, not a gun. The shooting sparked widespread protests and debates over police use of force and racial profiling. The atmosphere was thick with tension as reporters scrambled to gather information, their faces etched with concern. The background music should reflect this suspenseful and action-packed environment, heightening the sense of urgency and anticipation. As the story developed, the chaos gradually gave way to a more controlled and calm demeanor. The initial shock and confusion were replaced by a methodical approach to uncovering the truth. The music should transition accordingly, starting with intense, fast-paced beats that mirror the frantic energy of the newsroom, and then slowly easing into a more serene and composed melody. This shift in tone will help convey the journey from chaos to clarity, capturing the essence of the incident and its impact on everyone involved. Settings. The aftermath of the event left the community in a state of shock and disbelief. The once bustling streets were now eerily quiet, as people tried to come to terms with what had happened. News anchors across the country reported on the incident, their voices filled with a mix of sorrow and urgency. Families gathered around their televisions, seeking answers and hoping for some sense of reassurance. The local authorities were quick to respond, setting up emergency services and support systems to help those affected, Volunteers from neighboring towns poured in, offering their assistance and solidarity. The resilience of the human spirit shone through as people began to rebuild and support one another. In the days that followed, stories of heroism and kindness emerged, reminding everyone of the strength and unity that can arise from tragedy. The community, though scarred, found a way to move forward, holding on to hope and the promise of a brighter future.